Good evening, everyone. Another film with the Range Rover this time. And this time we're gonna do something a bit unusual. Namely, we're gonna be replacing / repairing all the backlights from the interior buttons. Namely, this area, this one here, and that one over there. So you might be asking, okay, why should we do this? This is quite unusual. Well, it just so happens that the first owner of this car, for reasons known only by him, decided that he didn't like the original backlights of the car, which are typically this kind of green. Right? I don't know if you can see it very well, but it is a sort of calm green. And he instead opted for a combination of white and red. And when I actually got the car, what happened was, you can see here that for some of the buttons, the backlight doesn't actually work anymore. It's mostly visible, for example, around here. See, this one works, this one works, this one does, but the rest around here and this one, they no longer work. This also applies to the terrain response control over here. You can see how these lights work, but these don't, as well as around here. Now, I've stayed with the car like this for a couple of months. I actually managed to get this block fixed. As you can see, in this block, everything works right now. Initially, about 50% of the buttons didn't work. But I did have some problems with the backlight of the clock, and I didn't actually find the time to handle this area and this area. So I'm going to be doing it in the next couple of days, and I'm going to show you step by step how this is done. And I've turned the phone's flashlight off so you can see a bit better what's going on. So here's the current situation. The lights, some of the lights here don't work, and some of the lights here on the terrain response control don't work. And the clock is green. This is the original backlight of the car. So what we hope to obtain at the end, the backlight of the clock should be white. For the AC control and heated seats, it should be mostly white, with the exception of the heated seat buttons, which should be red. And for the bottom, I'm gonna stick with the original green, because this is still original. This hasn't been, the backlights of the gear shifter haven't been switched, and I actually managed to source a different terrain response block with the original lights. So I'm thinking I'm gonna leave this bottom part, I'm gonna leave it with the original backlights, and then have what's in front of me in white and red. Okay, and with that said, tomorrow we're gonna start disassembling the components, because what we're aiming for, we need to get to the PCBs of these blocks, and then have them sent to someone who will be replacing the LEDs for the backlights. These have backlights from LEDs, not your typical small bulbs. And we begin by disconnecting the battery, because we're going to be working on electrics, obviously. It's placed here. This is a European model, not a British one, which means that that's where the ABS and brake reservoirs stay, and this is where the battery stays. So we just need to remove this cap. It just unclips relatively easily. That I have to take it out to reveal the battery. And when we disconnect the battery, we always disconnect the negative terminal, which is that one over there. Not the positive, the negative, always. And for that, we just grab a 10mm hex and unscrew the nut, which holds the negative terminal in place. some point I should be able to start unscrewing it by hand. Not yet. Yeah, there's not a lot of space, to be honest. There we go. Yeah, that's it. Okay. And gently remove the negative terminal. Just like that. And store it somewhere so that there's no chance of it making contact with the negative terminal on the battery. And we begin with the clock. Short story. When I fixed the backlights for this area, I had to remove the clock, and when I put it back again, I didn't push it all the way back because I knew I would have to address the backlights from inside it eventually, which means now it's quite easy to take it out. Normally, if it would be pressed all the way back, you would have to remove this entire facet, and then the clock unit can be pushed from the back. As it is now, we just have to take it out, and you see there's this wire bundle that you just need to gently push away. And here it is removed. Note the wire bundle is behind. Don't push it too much inside, otherwise you might have some difficulty getting it back. Just one quick note, make sure that the clock is at 12 o'clock, because that's gonna make life much easier later when we're doing the disassembly, because in order to get to the clock's backlights, we'd have to remove the two clock hands. And it's easy when they're both at an easy to determine position like 12 o'clock. Moving on to the light controls. Now these already have some white LEDs, but some of them don't work, so I'm gonna send them off for repair as well. And with this one, it's fairly straightforward. You just need a set of plastic tools for interior trim removal. By the way, plastic tools, not metal tools, because if you use metal tools like screwdriver tips or something like that, you're just gonna scratch these plastics, and they are fairly expensive to buy brand new. And the idea here is that we need to pull on this unit from behind and from the top. Let me see if I can show you how it should be done. So I put it underneath, and it clicks relatively easily, and it comes out just like this. And it has just a small wiring loom. Just make sure here to remove this, you have to press on a small black tip here, pull the gray tip to the side, and the connector comes out. Not sure I'm able to do this with one hand, but apparently I am. And it just goes like this, and then the connector simply comes out. There we go. And here's our lighting unit. And for the heater and AC controls, as well as the terrain response controls, it's a bit more difficult, because first of all we have to remove this entire center console bit. Now I've already removed it, but I'll show you what needs to be done. So number one, right here where the CD player is, there is a plastic mask that I've already removed. You have to pull this one out using those same plastic tools. It's held together with like small clips. And then there are two screws, one over here and another one over here, that you need to remove and store. Make sure you don't lose those. And then the center console piece itself is held together with a number of fairly strong clips, so no screws unfortunately, and you basically have to struggle with it for a while to make it unclip from the bottom here. It took me a while to do this. It works eventually. Those plastic tools also come in handy. You can maybe put them beneath here and push. That helped me as well. But eventually it should come out. And this is how it's supposed to look like. And here's how it looks like underneath. It's, well, a mess, really, with all manner of controls and everything, but don't get scared. Basically what we need to do now is just to handle these two controls, because these route all the wires from the car to the units inside the center console, and after that we're actually able to take the center console unit out of the car. the green connector is very simple. You have this small lip that you need to press on, and then you need to gently pull it away like this. And for the second bigger gray connector, there's supposed to be a lip, a plastic lip around here that you need to push, and then the head detaches just like this. In my case, that plastic lip appears to be missing, most likely from when the backlights were first swapped. I don't know how many years ago. In any case, if the lip is missing, you can use a small screwdriver to push the blocker on this part of the connector upwards, and then you'll be able to remove the head just like that. And with that, this center console bit is fully disconnected and we can remove it from the car. And man, oh man, take a look at this chaos. Like, so many wires and dust and filth and some additional accessories, again, most likely from the first owner. At this point, I'm not really sure what they do. But if I'm here, I might as well investigate a bit, and I might actually end up removing them if they're not doing anything useful. Fun. And now for the steering wheel switch blocks that are here. Now, in order to get to these, first of all, the airbag module has to come out. Before you do this, disconnect the battery. This is very important. If the battery is not disconnected and you play around with it, there is a genuine risk of the airbag exploding in your face. You don't want that. After the battery is disconnected, which it is in our case, first thing is to remove this. And in order to remove this, on the side of the steering wheel there are two holes. One is here, one's on the other side. And you need something like this, a picking tool like this, which needs to go in, and it will latch onto a metal spring behind the airbag unit. I've already disconnected it on both sides, but let me show you what I'm talking about. See, if when you remove this, there's this bit here. See this metal spring which you need to pull to your side using that pick tool. After you've done this on both sides, the airbag unit comes out. Be very careful here because all the wires that are here are connected to the airbag. Okay. And as you can see, I've removed the airbag. I placed it on top. I'm not gonna touch the wires. There's no need to disconnect anything from it, so I won't do that. Instead, taking a look at these switch boxes, we notice there are 4 screws, one here, and then the other two on the other side, which need to come out. You might need to tilt the steering wheel a bit to make some room for them. And once those screws are removed, it should be a simple case of pulling the two controls out. And I've managed to remove the 4 screws without removing the steering wheel. The screws look like this. These are Torx T20s. And what I used something like this to be able to access the 4 holes. It was a bit of a struggle, I won't lie. It took about 15 minutes to get all of them out. But in any case, once the 4 screws are out, these things simply unclip. They're held by 2 more plastic tabs, and with a little bit of jolting, they simply come out. At which point, we have to disconnect the wiring to them and we can take them out of the car. And here are the removed components. I also removed the paddle shifters. These are comparatively easy to remove from the steering wheel. They're held together with 1 screw, again a T20, that's fairly accessible, and then 1 wire jack that you can remove with your fingers. So now we'll take these and we'll disassemble further to reach the PCBs. And on the center console, the first item to remove is the transmission control switch block, which is this one here. Contains the rotary dial for the 8-speed gearbox and the surrounding plastic, which is held together with 6 T20 screws, 1, 2, third is down there, fourth down there, fifth is right here on the side, and sixth is right over there. Okay, and let's see how it goes. Fairly smooth. And we do the same for the other ones. And after removing the screws, you can see the block is moving, but we still need to disconnect all the electrical wires. So we have 3 connectors. This is for the actual transmission shifter. You need to push on this small black pin and then gently pull the connector and it comes out. Then the next one is this small green one, which is for the parking brake. Again, it has this small tap here that you need to press, and then it comes out just as easily. Okay, and there we go. And for the third one, most likely I have to press something to pull it out. Not quite sure yet, but I'm looking at it and we'll let you guys know. And I figured it out. You're supposed to push this green tip, this one down here, towards the connector, and at the same time pull on the connector. It's a bit difficult because you don't have that much room for your fingers, but eventually it comes out like this. Next, you can remove this wire bundle from the plastic that holds the transmission switch, i.e. these points, this one and this one, by gently pulling on them, so that you're now able to move the entire wire bundle to the side, just like that, and then the transmission control module comes out, just like that. And just for the sake of safekeeping, I strongly recommend you keep all the screws that you remove with the unit they're coming from. In this case, we have the 6 screws and our transmission control unit, so let's just store each one of them in their respective place, and this way it will be much easier when we have to put them back. That's the 4th, and the 5th was this way, and the 6th was, I can just screw this one in here apparently. Awesome. Next, it's the plastic bit that contains the cup holders, ashtray, and lighter. Just as before, we first pull the electrical connectors gently. That's 1, and that would be 2. Come on, you. There we go. They behaved. And from what I've seen, there's 1, 2, 3 screws and some sort of plastic clip down there, which I'm gonna have to remove. And surprise, surprise, I was wrong. So it wasn't this that needed unclipping, it was these 1, 2, and 3 metal tips, which have to be pushed a bit from the bottom, and they unclip from these holes over there. But in any case, this one came out quite easily. Next, we have to remove these side trims, and it looks like these are fairly simple to remove. You just have a number of screws that you need to undo, and they should come out. And the reason why we're doing this is behind this plastic is our AC and heated seats module, the one that gets connected here. And as you can see, it is screwed onto these plastics, but from the other side. And unless we remove these plastics, these trims on the side, we don't have access to those screws. So onwards. And with the side trim out of the way, next we need to remove this part, which should just clip from this side first. I've already removed it, but I'm showing you how it's supposed to be done. You're supposed to unclip it from this side, pull it up, and then it comes out from there. And with that step done, you can see that we finally have access to the screws that hold the air conditioning and heated seats module in place. So we'll remove those and we should finally have access to our module. And guess what? We removed the screws and we still can't remove this because we still have to remove this plastic trim. Luckily, this one is just held in with like various plastic points and clips, so it should be fairly simple to remove. Though do be careful because this is plastic, don't apply too much force. Just work gently. Finally, with that plastic trim removed and the connector disconnected, again straightforward, there's this plastic tip, you have to push on it and pull it out. We finally reached our AC module. And now we need to continue until we reach the PCB. And the first thing you need to do, you need to disconnect this wire, which feeds the CD removal button. This is the CD mask. And then the entire AC module simply pulls out from this mask. It's only held in I think 2 points. One is over there, one is over there. Yeah, with these tips. See, one here and the other one here. So you need to pull and make sure not to break them because they're all plastic. And first things first, we need to remove these 3 shiny rings, and these are just removed simply with a plastic tool like this. Well, you get the idea. Here they are removed. Do note these shapes to the sides, which means that these two have to come off first before you can remove the third and the center one. Now with those removed, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws and potentially some metal tabs like these ones to the side. You see there's 1, 2, 3 and 4 that we need to tackle, and that should allow us to separate the rear plastic of the module. And with the rear plastic out, here is our PCB, and this one can just gently be pulled out from the front plastic, and here's how it looks like. Looks like that. Okay, and these are the backs of the buttons. Now they don't have any lights on them. All of the lights are here, around here. You can see them. All of these things are various LEDs in one shape or the other, and all of these will have to be removed. By the way, this is just a plastic cover for protection. The PCB as it is underneath. And we can now take a look at it. Oh boy, I don't even know how many LEDs there are here, but there's quite a lot of them. Well, awesome. And we continue with the exterior lights module, which is, well, much simpler to tackle. You start by removing the position switch. Just grab it and pull on it. It comes out like this. And then you twist it, and we need to remove this plastic cover. Now this plastic cover is very interesting. It's held on with four small points, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But also, if you look closer, by these 4 tips on the electrical connector. You see there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what we need to do somehow, because I'll need both of my hands, we have to simultaneously press on these 4 pins with one arm, on one hand, and with the other one, using, let's say, our plastic tool, we have to raise it up. Let's see if I can do it. No, I need both my hands. Actually, I found a better position, so I stick this in here, and while I'm holding onto the plastic, just raise it a bit, and it came out from these 2 points fairly easily. And now, for example, if I press on these, on the 2 here, I should be able to raise it a bit more. In any case, continue gently until this plastic cover is out. And with the plastic removed, this is the back of the PCB. And what we need to do, we need to remove this T10 screw. And then the PCB is actually held inside the plastic body in 4 places. You can actually see it. There's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. In 4 points. The connector is actually linked to the PCB, so after you remove the screw, just gently push on this. You see it can actually be pushed with the fingers to make room. Same up here, and then the PCB is gonna come out. And this is how it looks like removed. This is the case that needs maybe a little bit of cleaning. And this is our PCB, and you can see the LEDs here. All of them are the same color, and there's 2 more behind the fog lamp buttons. One is here and one is here. And we're done with this bit as well. And now moving onwards to this part of the center console, where we first want to swap these blocks between each other. This is the original one from my car, which has had its LEDs changed and part of them no longer work. And this is one with the original green and LED LEDs. So we're just gonna swap these. And in order to do that, we have to remove this unit. Now it's held in place in 8 spots with plastic tabs, 2 on each side. Like there's these 2 here, another 2 over here, another 2 here, 1 here, and 1 there. Basically what you need to do is you need to use like a plastic tool like this. For each tab, you make some room, and then simultaneously what you want to do is you want to press on this side towards the outside of the plastic case, around the area of the tab where you're making the room. Just work gently, one at a time, and it eventually comes out. And here's the unit removed. And now to install the other one, it's fairly straightforward. Turn this piece 180 degrees. Turn this one in the right way around and just push it down bit by bit until all 8 plastic tabs click. And here it is installed. Now, if for example you want to replace the lights on your existing unit and you don't want to swap it with something else, it's more or less the same procedure as before. You see, you would have 2 screws, unscrew them, pull this bit out, and you will eventually reach the PCB with the LEDs, just as we did before. Now for the electronic handbrake switch, this one, what you need to do is you first need to push on these black tabs and push them out, and this removes this black plastic cover. And now you have access to those 2 screws that you need to take out. Fairly straightforward, though keep in mind that they're not screwed into plastic. They actually have some very, very small nuts. You see them here. and you have to hold these in position, for example, with the tip of a screwdriver or something. Otherwise, if you try to unscrew these, they'll just spin along with the nuts. So in any case, just do this and the parking brake switch comes out. And with the parking brake switch, after it's been removed, you can remove this plastic cap. It's held together with 4 plastic tabs, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Again, create some space between this plastic and the black plastic beneath, and it should just come out easily. And you can see down there, there's the LED. And to access that, you need to remove this small module from the back, which is again held together with 4 plastic tabs, 2 on each side. Okay. And now onwards to the clock. Now with this one, you really need to be careful. So what needs to happen here, first of all, you need to remove this exterior plastic ring, which you can do relatively easy again with this plastic tool. You have to stick it in various points between the ring and the black body, create room, and eventually it comes out. I've already done that. Once it comes out, put it to a side. This is the transparent plastic cover. You should keep these two together to not lose them. And now, if you grab the clock by the head and you pull it out, this is the module itself. Now, if you can see down here, these are the LEDs. You see them? There's 3 of them. And it's a bit tricky to access them, because what you need to do is you need to pull both of these hands out. Then you're going to be removing this clock face, and then this transparent plastic, and then you can access them. There's no other way around it, and you need to be very careful when you remove these 2 hands. I would advise using only plastic tools, otherwise I think there's a risk of scratching. And do bear in mind, I mentioned at the beginning why it's important to have the clock at 12 o'clock, because right now it's not powered. And once you remove the hands and you'll eventually have to put them back, it's very easy to know in what position they need to be put back. So it's at 12 o'clock and it's safe to remove the hands, and we'll know afterwards when we put them back, they should go back to being at 12 o'clock. And here they are removed in one piece, or 2 pieces, I suppose. And next, this black face comes off fairly easily. It's held together in 2 points. You can actually remove it very, very easily. And then this bit of, it's like a plastic paper thing which shows the hours. And the third bit is this plastic cover, you see, which is held together in 2 points. Just pinch them out and raise the plastic, and you have access to your LEDs. Next, we want to tackle the backlights of the CD eject button from this front fascia. This is fairly straightforward. There are 2 screws, smaller than a T10, larger than a T7, probably a T8 or a T9, which I don't have, so I just managed to find a large enough straight screwdriver, which allows me to remove them. That's 1, and that is 2. A little bit more. All right. Now keep in mind the routing of this wire, because we need to pull it out, and obviously we'll have to put it back in the same way when we're done. And I think there's a few more plastic tabs that need to be pressed, and then this unit can come out. And here's our button. After I removed the 2 screws, I just needed to gently press with my finger on this black bit and it came out. And the next and the last bit is to unclip this black bottom bit of plastic. You see it's actually sort of hinged to one side. Then it comes out. Don't pull on it too hard, we don't want to break it. And that exposes our PCB, which with a little bit of effort can now come out. And voila, it is out. Which means at this point that we're completely done with the center console, and all that we have to do is to remove the steering wheel buttons. And looking at one of the pedal shifters, you see they have this pin, this metal pin, that needs to be pulled out. I'm using a pair of pliers to do that. Might take a bit of force, but it comes out eventually. And once the pin is removed, you can actually you can split the two plastics, the button itself from the case, and then you can access the PCB. And here are the separated parts: the pin, the button itself. This is where the light propagates to the plus and the minus that you see. And this is our PCB with our LED over here. You can easily remove this. It's held together in 2 points into the plastic. And be very mindful of this little spring. Make sure you don't lose it when you separate the parts. And once you start working on the steering wheel buttons, the first thing that you need to do is remove all of the visible little screws. These are all small Phillips screws and they should come out fairly easily. And here's the result. This is the cover for the PCB that's underneath. In the case of this block, which is for the right hand side, there's also the button for the heated steering wheel that has its own small PCB. As you can see, it's held together in 2 points. 1, 2, those are plastic, so you just pull them to the side and the PCB comes out. And the same in this case. It's held together, from what I can see, in 1 point, which is this one. And you can bring it out. These are the other components. Be very, very careful with these, because these plastic tips, these transparent bits and so on are not glued to the black plastic. So if you tip them over, all of these white things are just gonna fall, and you don't want that. So I strongly suggest not to tip these parts over. Having said that, there's just one more thing left to do, i.e. to disconnect the PCB from this bit. And here are the results. These are the two PCBs. I keep the cover on for protection, but they're accessible. And these are the remaining parts. For safekeeping, I would suggest that you temporarily put all the screws you removed in the same spot. That makes it easier to know where they came from and to not lose them. Okay, so at this point we will also repeat the process for the other set of steering wheel buttons. I won't film it because it's effectively the same. And after that is done, I'm gonna take all the PCBs that we've removed to a specialist to have the LEDs replaced. And about 3 days later, the PCBs are back with the SMD LEDs all replaced. Here they are, all of them. It's 8 PCBs, and we're gonna start reassembly, beginning with the paddle shifters, which contain these 2 PCBs. And this is the assembly of the gear down paddle shift, the left one. Fairly straightforward. You figure it out easily which one of the 2 belongs to it. And what we're supposed to do is we put the electrical jack through this hole here. Then the PCB is gonna click on these plastic sides, and then we can put the button itself on the top and push the metal pin to close it up. Next, the exterior lights switch block. This is our PCB. We turn it around, aligning the two buttons with the large hole here, and also the green connector with the plastic tab. They need to be aligned. And then this one simply goes inside here, push until it clicks in all four corners. Then the screw goes through the hole in the center, and then the plastic cap goes on top also until it clicks in the four corners. And the last bit, the head of the switch, goes on this side onto the plastic cap right here. That's it. For the DVD eject button, it is very straightforward. Just grab the PCB, make sure the LEDs are pointing downwards, i.e. toward that transparent cover inside. And just place the PCB inside the plastic cover and push on this tab until it clicks. That's all. And for the left-hand side steering wheel buttons, the one with the cruise control and the media controls, again, it's fairly straightforward. You take the PCB and put it on top of the transparent cover, and then the whole assembly goes on top of this plastic cover. Remove the screws. Be very careful not to tilt this in any way, because as I said earlier, these white tabs will fall and you might lose them. You don't want that. Once the PCB is on top, you just need to install the cover and tighten the screws. The same goes for the right-hand side button panel. And now we're reassembling the clock, and you need to be very careful and very gentle here. So number one, we have our clock module. The first thing that comes on top is this transparent piece that can only be put one way. You see the 3 points, 1, 2, and 3, actually go directly above the LEDs. That tells you the orientation. And you put it in, push it until it clicks on the sides. See, on the sides it has this bit and that bit over there. On top of that comes this piece with the 6 o'clock towards the bottom, and the bottom is the place with these white wires. And after we assemble these, we need to assemble the clock hands. And I've installed the clock hands as well. First is the hour hand at the bottom, and then the minute hand at the top. These just need to be pushed by hand gently, and when you do push, go progressively and make sure after you do push them that they can still spin without resistance. In any case, once you mount this module in the car, if you notice any issues like the hands not spinning, you can take it out, remove the hands, and then push them back with a little less pressure. Okay, and do note that we've installed it as before with the hands at 12 o'clock. Now the last bit is just the transparent cover that goes on top, and then this additional cover. Note that this has a small tip here. It should always be pointing towards 6 o'clock. And then the entire assembly is inserted into this plastic case, and they all click together. And finally, the biggest part, this is the AC and heated seats PCB. First of all, you put the black cover on top. Then this one goes on top of the black plastic with the 4 screws. You see this hole actually aligns with the pins at the bottom. You see them here. And then on top comes the plastic face with the actual buttons themselves. Also, remember to reinstall these pieces. Each goes on top of the small screens that show you the temperature. and make sure you align them when you install the button panel, otherwise they'll look a bit crooked. Next, don't forget to assemble the DVD eject button. The jack is here and the wire is routed fairly clearly via these 3 points. And now we can continue assembling the entire module to the frame. And moving on, the module itself has to be placed on the frame that contains the wiring harness. Don't forget to actually connect the corresponding wire to the back of the module. And then you're supposed to take this plastic mask, route the wire for the eject button through the back of the mask. You see it has these pins here, and then simply fix it in place and screw it down using these small screws. Afterwards, the plastic mask goes on top and you need to tighten down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. Next, we have this trim that simply clips in place on the contour of the frame, everywhere except here and here, where it's actually held in place with these 2 metal clips that simply get pushed on. Next come these 2 heavy and lovely side trims. These simply get inserted into their corresponding sides. They're made of aluminum at the back and they have 4 or 5 screws that need to be tightened. Next comes the block with the cup holders, ashtray and 12-volt power socket. This one just slides in gently. On this side there are these 3 metal pins here that align with these 3 holes and they sort of click. Then you have to screw in 3 places, here, here and here. And at the end, don't forget to plug in the power connectors to the 12-volt socket. Next comes the module with the terrain response and handbrake. This one is inserted with these 2 pins beneath the front trim, and then you're supposed to push on it until it clicks. Something like that. And the last module to go in is the gear shift module with the plastic trim. As before, this one is supposed to get inserted here, something like this. And nothing fancy, it's supposed to be held in with 6 screws, 2 longer ones in the front, 2 here and here, and 2 to the side. And after that is done, you need to connect the wiring bundle. This goes to this hole, this goes to this hole, and then insert the corresponding jacks to their 3 slots. And we are done with the center console. After we tidy everything up, we are heading to the car to assemble everything. And we're back in the car, starting with the steering wheel controls. Take one of the modules, the same steps apply to the other. This one, for example, is the cruise control and the audio buttons. Goes on the left side of the steering wheel. And remember, it has 2 electrical connectors, a long one here and a smaller one here. And these correspond to this one, the small one, and this one, the bigger one. So you connect them accordingly, and then you slide the 2, let's say, plastic legs of the connector inside these holes, one here and one over there, and it should just simply click. The same for the other one. Moving on, let's add some additional components. The paddle shifters are fairly straightforward. As you can see, I've installed the steering wheel buttons. So for the paddle shifters, it's just a matter of connecting them to their corresponding jack placing them in position, and they're supposed to be held to this block with this screw. So easy job. Same on the other side. With the light control box, again straightforward. Add the electrical connection. Make sure after you put it in place to twist this gray pin. This makes it lock into position, and then push it all the way back in its block until it clicks. And finally, with the clock, again straightforward, connect it with its corresponding electrical connection, and it can be then pushed back into its block until it clicks. After you've installed all the steering wheel panels with the buttons and the paddle shifts, don't forget to install the airbag before you connect the battery. It should just be placed in its original position, and you need to push it. It has 4 entry points here, and the 2 locking pins are here. So push it all the way until it clicks in both sides. And here are the results. Let's go from left to right. The exterior lights block, steering wheel buttons, paddle shifters, heated steering wheel, the clock, AC and heated seats, they look absolutely fabulous. And down here we have the original lights. See this lovely green. Overall, the car turned out very, very well. I'm really happy with the results. Shout out to Mr. Nicolae, who replaced the LEDs on all those PCBs. He did an excellent job. Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and have a nice evening. Take care, and bye-bye.